If you would like to hear Night Dreams Talk Radio on your local radio station, let them know. Tell them to check out www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. And thank you.
Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Gary Anderson.
And that is me. Tonight, our guest is Jim Penniston. We're talking about what happened back at that air base in the UK. And you know, one thing, I've been getting somebody asking like, well, are you still on the air? Yes, we are. I checked with some of the radio stations. They say we are broadcasting fine. If you're listening on the internet, if you're listening on your phone or a laptop or a computer, it's important that you occasionally clean out your cache. If you don't clean out your cache, you could, you know, who knows, you could be dumped off the app, whatever app you're listening to us on. So, you know, again, if you're on your phone listening to the show, make sure you go through and clean your cache out, and then you should have no problem. Jim, we're back.
Great. Okay.
I got to ask
where
you, Jim,
was
real
I
quick.
at?
Wait a minute, James, wait a minute. I am the host. You're just my friend. No, you walked on top of him. Now, what did you want to say, James?
I just wanted to ask Jim real quick. Did he say that there was a radar hit on this craft?
Could you hear, Jim? Could you hear James?
Part of it. Was it about a radar hit?
Yeah, he wanted to know if there's a radar hit.
Yeah, that's. We had to have an emergency situation to deploy off base, and that's what caused it. Otherwise, I'll tell you right now, the shift commander wasn't going to get a hold of the base commander and ask him to go off base. I mean, you had to have, a reason, and it had to be emergency. So it wasn't, just let's go off base and see what that light is. It was nothing like that. I mean, we didn't have time for that kind of BS.
James, you have another question you want to ask?
No, that was interesting because that's pretty good physical, data and evidence right there. And I don't think that's ever been really established too much like it should be. And so anyway, go ahead with what you were saying, Jim.
Okay. So I'll tell you what. I'll tell you a little bit of the Rendlesham Forest. It's the Queen's Forest, and so what they do is they raise trees as a crop. Okay, and they let them grow up to for 10 years, and then they cut them down, and then they replant. And that's how they do the Rendlesham. They still do to today, I'm sure. So the reason I'm saying that is that we had, I had at least 200 yards of open field with berms, these earthen berms, because of the plantings that had been cut down. So the forest actually sat way back at that time. There was no trees, for at least 150 yards. And so I was trying to go across that. I had a CJ5 Jeep, and I was trying to get, as far as I could with my Jeep. And I was afraid I was going to tip it over. Besides, I went to this one point in time in the cleared area, and I says, well, this is a good place for an entry control point, because if I can't go any farther, there, responders, they're not going to be able to go get there either. So I did the coordinates for the map coordinates for the entry control point, called them in to CSC, but I was having trouble. There was two radios. I had a radio, and Aaron Kabanzak, he had a radio, both on security net. And I said, okay, I'm going to set up Kabanzak here as entry controller for the responding forces. And myself and Aaron Burrows as law enforcement guy, we're going to go ahead and go up and investigate the crash scene. And this is stuff that we should have done, by the security response ops. And I was going through my protocols. And as we started getting up toward the edge of the forest, it was starting to become obvious it wasn't a crash, because it was mainly a white sort of bluish light, which is the first time I ever seen that kind of thing on a crash site. And it was very bright, and it was starting to dissipate. But then I could start to see some colors on it. And so as I was getting close to the forest edge, I had lost contact with Central Security Control. I mean, I was doing my transmissions. Cabanzac was relaying. By that time, Sergeant Chandler, the flight sergeant from Bentwaters, was at East Gate, took my position at the base. And so we had a radio relay set up. So, but I still continued, calling in, because it was obvious, CSC was hearing me. I just wasn't hearing them. As we got to the forest, I started feeling, I was taking pictures too, by the way. I took pictures of all this. That time we had, Canon cameras, black and white film. I think there was 36 rolls on roll. So I shot them off pretty fast with the idea, I don't want anybody to think that, I wasn't going to give aid to survivors from a crash. It's just that there's just the chance of a survivor was zero. I mean, pretty much. And anyway, as I shot off that film, I was getting close to the edge of the forest. The light started dissipating. It wasn't as bright, and which was odd too. And then I started feeling, like static electricity. At first, I thought it might have been adrenaline, but it was pretty intense. It was, static electricity was on my skin, my face, my hair, clothes, which is odd. Then as I entered the forest, and I had to see, Burroughs was about 20 feet to the back rear of me, and I had Cabanzac maybe 50 feet, 75 feet to my left rear from me at the entry control point. So we were all pretty close together. And as we got to this one berm, as I come in, I was feeling there was some of the other things that were odd. There was noise up to the point after I got to the woods. When I say after I entered the forest, the sound stopped. I mean, like I'm not talking just the animals. I'm talking like wind through the trees and stuff like that. And everything seemed muffled. And then there was a bright flash of light. Out of reaction, I hit the ground, and there was no explosion. There was no sound. So I get up, and I said, "Okay, that wasn't an explosion, but
well, hey, Jim,
a reaction."
I want to ask you a question. You mentioned the bright light. How bright was it? Was it really intense light?
Yeah, it was pretty bright. It would be like, car lights by a factor of 10. It was pretty bright. And then it started dissipating, and I could see it was just over the berm in front of me. The berm stood about 5 feet high, and so as I go up over the berm, I mean, I'm having a lot of trouble walking this time. If my movements felt labored. The way I best describe it in the book is it's like walking waist high through a pool of water, and that's the way my movements were labored. Then, of course, there was no sound either. I continued to make my radio checks, and then I seen Burroughs over to the right rear, and he's just standing there, and motionless. Same with Cabanzac. So I am right now I'm in like a bubble of light. Okay. It's probably stretched out maybe 15 feet from the point of what I'm looking at, which is a brighter light that was dissipating down. And so as I get over the berm, I start seeing, this light, the white light is dissipated all the way down, and I start seeing a formation of a triangular craft, black, opaque. And in the skin of the craft, there's globular lights running around it, red, yellow, blue, different colors, and there was still white light coming out from underneath the craft. And then I terminate the security response option for downed aircraft, and I initiate a helping hand situation.
Now, what's that?
A helping hand is an up-channel report, unclassified, of a possible hostile threat to the installation and the A, B, and C resources on the base. It was obvious it wasn't a crash; it was an operating craft of some kind, and I had no indication it was ours. So,
were you getting scared at that time, Jim?
Yeah, I was concerned. I was pretty concerned. Yes. Well, I tell you what. In the book, I write 2 chapters on this contact and my time there. And I kept going back to it after 3 and 4 months because I couldn't find the right words to describe what I was thinking and feeling. And it took that long to write because of that. I wanted to use the right words to best describe what was going on. And I think I successfully done that. I'm just not going to be able to do it on this radio show, I don't think. There's a lot of emotions going on. I mean, from this point on, there are a full gambit of emotions. I mean, running from scared to, let me explain with the craft. As I was standing there and the formation of this was clear, there was a triangular craft and it had light coming out from beneath it. And I could look around, and from that point around me, around 15, 20 feet, and it was like I was in a bubble because there was light still on the exterior of this bubble. I could still see the 2 airmen, and they're still both of them motionless. They were moving.
They